In a previous video, we took a look into the HyperTough 12-volt ratchet from Walmart. It was a very handy ratchet to be under $40 for the kit. We also spent a little bit of time looking into the battery and the differences and the similarities between the M12 and the HyperTough 12-volt. I also shared how the older Craftsman NexTech 12-volt platform had a very similar battery. And even though they're not compatible, just a very close design, even the mold for the pack itself. And also shared that NexTech line was actually made by Chevron, who makes EcoFlex, Skill, and more. We did take some time to look inside of the pack, looked at the MOSFETs, we looked at the cells that they have in them. We also did a capacity test, which, much to my surprise, the capacity was very close or even overachieved the stated rating. Probably not the most high output cells. They had to save money somewhere, but the capacity was as stated. But today we want to focus more on the 3/8 compact impact wrench. You can get the kit for $59. That's with a 2 amp hour battery. And we're just going to compare this side by side with the $199 Milwaukee Fuel. Both of these impacts feel really good and lightweight in the hand. I will say that the HyperTough actually might have a better feel and grip than the Milwaukee. I put off doing a look into these impacts. So many people have videos on them and looked into them. And we also noticed on Torque Test channel, as I mentioned in the previous video, I don't know if they received a bad one, bad batteries. Maybe a first gen that has something wrong with it, or maybe I'm just missing something. But the ones that we have seem to be performing very well for the price. And we see on their test that this one did not do well. I do trust their setup. I know it did exactly like it showed, and it was very evident something was going on. One thing that was going on is it did not have the brushless sticker on the back on theirs. So whether they took it off, I'm not sure, or if maybe they had a first generation or the first version out. The second thing that was weird is even though their 2 amp hour battery was messing up with them, and they used a 4 amp hour battery to post the numbers, I think it was 81 foot-pounds. If you look, when they did try their 2 amp hour battery, even though it was short burst and it was faulting out and stopping, it actually performed higher on torque with a few seconds of pulses than the 4 amp hour did for a solid 5 seconds, which is very odd. It just leaves some questions there, and I want to do the best I can today to look into the tool that's available now. And with a little bit of luck, maybe Torque Test channel even want to test these out again if they have time or see a need for it. I'm just interested to see how they do. So one of the first tests that I set up is a preliminary test here. I hadn't even decided to do a video yet at this point for sure. I just have a 1/2 inch bolt in my little slide vise. It's not going to take a whole lot, of course. Just trying to hit it for like 4 seconds and just see what the breakaway torque is after tightening, which is going to be a smaller percentage, like 75% or so, typical on the breakaway. But just wondering with the 4 to 5 seconds, so can I get from 60 to 65 foot-pounds by chance on this 1/2 inch bolt in a vise? And on my very first test, with just 4 seconds, my vise actually would not hold the nut, and it did register almost 62 foot-pounds. Then as I readjust, you can see that my vise actually broke. It actually broke the casting on the bottom of the slide. So that does look promising. So the very next thing that I done was I put this on the lug nuts of the Subaru at 89 foot-pounds torque. I apologize for the background noise and the road noise, but to be able to hear this torque adapter beep, you might have to have your volume up high, but I guess I thought it would show up better on video. Just double checking here, 89 foot-pounds is what I always torque these at, and just going around and double checking, and mainly so you can hear it beep. You want to go to the solid tone, and that means it's over the set point. These are 19 millimeter, by the way. Just take the HyperTough and let's take a couple off here. And it's just super quick. I'm going to use the Milwaukee Fuel to put these on. I'm going to put it in auto stop or auto shut off mode. And in auto stop mode, once it makes contact and has low resistance, it'll stop. So we'll just use it here just to show how handy this feature can be. So you can just hold the trigger down here and it just stops on its own. So that's pretty handy. I'm going to put it back on level 3 for the test, but I really don't use it on these small impact wrenches, but it is good that it has it. And of course the HyperTough does not have that feature, if that's something that you're looking for. I'm just going to torque these lug nuts back to exactly 89 foot-pounds. We'll see how the Milwaukee does. And much to my surprise, it actually took just a little bit longer for the Milwaukee to get it. So I think the HyperTough's going to be at least pretty decent competition for it. Just going to show putting these back on and torquing them down. If not, I'll probably get some comments below. Again, they are both very powerful for their size and they feel really good in your hand. So let's go just a little bit further with these. I don't know how far I can take it with my setup. I'm going to take this to 110 foot-pounds. We got a little bit better vise set up here. $112.9. We're going to use the same socket on all these tests today. Level 3, full battery. They're both 2 amp hour. Got it. Just a little over a second. $113.8. Let's see what the HyperTough will do. I couldn't tell the difference. Alright, so I quickly outgrew that 1/2 inch bolt. Now I have a 5/8 bolt, 15/16 socket. I have a 1/2 inch for my adapter, and I use the same 3/8 socket on both impact wrenches. I'm using my EWK torque adapter here. I do like the adapter, but it does eat up batteries, and I can't hear it very well. So I do wish it was louder and it had a little bit different battery setup. Let's go ahead and go to 125. 125 on the dot. Go ahead and do the Milwaukee. No problem. About a second. Let's torque it back down. 127.9. HyperTough. About the same. May have took just a little bit longer. I'm realizing here that my nut is moving, so it's not affecting one of the impacts more than the other. With that nut moving, it might be showing that they're breaking loose quicker than they are. I'm going to try to flatten this out where it won't spin, but ultimately I think I'm just going to weld the nut to the back, just tack weld it. That way I don't have to worry about the nut moving anymore. Altogether, I did put 4 tack welds on here. So back now, let's go all the way to 150. So now we have our welded nut, as well as I have a block cut for support because I was flexing the channel. So now it should be a little bit easier, and hopefully my torque numbers aren't off as bad this way. 156.9. See what the HyperTough will do. 2 amp hour, fully charged. So I took a little over 8 seconds, so I was surprised on that one. I did mess up and let off the trigger on that one, but it still took longer than I was expecting it to. 153 foot-pounds. If the Milwaukee 2 amp hour does a lot better, then I'm going to swap and go up on better batteries on the HyperTough. I'm going to see if I can keep it competing with the Milwaukee the best I can with batteries. Do it faster. Yeah, it done it a lot quicker. It didn't notice any difference from the last few tests. The Milwaukee definitely did that one a lot faster. I'm going to go ahead and torque this back down to 150 one more time. So you get 151.7. And I am going to swap the battery out for the 4 amp hour. Since Torque Test Channel did use a 4 amp hour battery and it didn't perform well, I definitely want to see how it does today also. And I'm hoping it'll compete with the Milwaukee a little better with a higher amp hour battery. And yes, absolutely. I can also go up to 4 amp hour on the Milwaukee if I need to. So we're going to go to 175. 177.8. I still got a little bit of movement here, but as you can tell, today I was not planning on going quite this high in torque. Wow, just a little over a second. Let's torque it back down. $174.9. Milwaukee said no problem. All right, let's go all the way to 200. Yeah, my setup is not the best for this torque by any means, but let's just compare them. At least it'll be equal between the two, whether my torque setup's exactly right or not. 203.3.
Milwaukee. Got it.
Milwaukee, a little over 1 second. 203.9. HyperTough 4 amp hour. The 4 amp hour with the HyperTough may have got that one is a little bit quicker. All right, 225. 224.4. Stopped a little bit short on that one. A little over 2 seconds. It had no problem with it. 227.8. Yeah, the HyperTough took just a little bit longer there. Still just impressive for the size of these tools. So I'm gonna go all the way to 250, but that's where my torque adapter maxes out. It rolls over at 250.8, I think it is. Yep, this is as high as I can go today. Was not expecting to be here with these little compact impacts. So I know I'm losing some torque here in the pull handle. 249.5. But hopefully this is a good enough comparison since I am trying to keep them to be roughly the same torque level. Wow, it did get it. It took it a while. Ended up being about 18 seconds, but that was still impressive that it got it for this price. Tighten it back down. 257.2. All right, Milwaukee.
Still 2 amp hour.
A little over 7 seconds. That's very impressive. Still with a 2 amp hour battery. With the 4 amp hour battery for this price, the HyperTough is still very impressive. But back now, I want to try one more thing. I still got it set for 250, so I want to torque it back down. I'm wishing at this point I either would have borrowed or bought a cheaper torque multiplier. It would have been nice. I wasn't expecting to have to go up to 250 foot-pounds for these small impacts. So 250.6. I was hoping to get 150 to 160 out of them, but I had no idea. And this is a custom made pack, so I use the 2800 Molicel 35 amp cells and built this pack just for playing around. The cells themselves can put out up to 70 amps for a brief period of time. How about that? About 8 seconds. Torque it back down. Just do the Milwaukee one more time. 249.8. Fully charged, 2 amp hour. Very close. I think the Milwaukee did just barely edge it out. Of course, that's using the custom pack on the HyperTough, but hey, just playing around trying to see if we can make this HyperTough compete with the Milwaukee. And it really was right there toe to toe with it. It did not topple the Milwaukee M12. Back now, I do want to take a look inside of these impacts, but before we do that, I want to share a little bit about the socket. This was a brand new Icon 15/16 made for the 3/8, and I don't know if you can see on video here, but hopefully with this white background you can tell it started rounding, and even though it was fair between the two tools, obviously I just want to share just how much these tools can put out. They rounded the corners on this socket, which also did hurt the performance of these impact wrenches a little bit. Just like using adapters, when you have anything loose, it does affect it. With every blow, it does take away some of that impact force. But I just got this adapter here to share that many people try to do videos on these 3/8 impacts and they put adapters on them, and you just can't do that. So you're going to lose anywhere from 25 to 35% with adapters, especially depending on how loose they fit. The tighter the better. You don't have a whole lot of movement in that impact and that hammer, and anything that's loose is going to drastically reduce its performance. I just got to remove the clip off of this Milwaukee. I've already got all the screws out of both. So the Milwaukee, I can pull the motor out from the back like so. The little permanent magnet rotor. It's amazing how much power these things have for the size. So look through the stator here. Go ahead and take the housing off. No wasted room in here. I have removed 2 clips on the HyperTough. It has 2 metal clips similar to the Milwaukee, and the housing halves off just like so. Both of these housings are the GF30, the 30% fiber reinforced. I'm going to go ahead and pull the impact mechanism out of the HyperTough. It's aluminum housing. Same for the M12. A lot of similarities here. And by the way, both of these mechanisms did hold up well. Kind of putting it through the test, giving it a little bit of abuse, as you could tell by the socket. The socket and some of the bolts didn't survive the test either, by the way. Just going to take a rubber mallet and just tap it on the anvil. Both anvils are in excellent condition. And there we go. There's our anvil and hammer and planetary gear assembly. This is a more traditional hammer and anvil design. But almost no wear, even though we did put it through a pretty rigorous testing here today. The planetary gear assembly looks good. Let's look at the M12. A lot of similarities, and we see that the hammer and anvil is a lot like the larger high impact that Milwaukee makes. They feel very similar in weight, but the Milwaukee might have a little bit of weight advantage here. Let's put them back together and let's weigh them. The Milwaukee 12.8 ounces. The HyperTough 12 ounces. We see that the permanent magnet rotors look very similar on the two. A little bit closer look at the HyperTough. Can't see a whole lot on the board. There's a lot of potting. We look closer at the Milwaukee. We definitely do see a little bit more to it. It looks like this brushless motor does have the Hall feedback, where the HyperTough is sensorless or Hallless. And we definitely see our little board for the mode control on the M12. But a lot of similarities between the two, really. One last look at the little planetary gearbox. Some excellent engineering and design work goes into these. Put these back together. Back now, we done put them back together and put the screws in them, so test them out. Nice. So let me know down in the comments below if you'd like to see a video put together on the battery pack modification, the cells we used and how we done it. So I did a 2.8 amp hour pack, and then of course the 5.6, which is just a 2P pack of the same Molicel 2800 milliamp hour cells. If you're interested in that, we'll try to do one in the near future. So really quick here, one bonus at the end of the video. I did want to try the little HyperTough brushless cutoff tool. It's just super compact and under $50 for the kit. So I did want to try it, and it came in before I got through filming. So just want to show it really quick in action. The 1.5 amp hour battery that comes with it and the cutoff wheel that comes with it. And it actually is removing a lot of material here. I'm going to push it hard. You might be able to hear it on camera. And finally it cuts out. It does restart with no problem, just cycling the trigger. It is doing some work here. You just can't push it too hard, but you can see the sparks flying. I'm going to push it harder and harder here. And it did catch, but it did cut off. So one thing I want to do before I cut all the way through it, I want to put my modified 5.6 amp hour on here, just to see if even on camera we can tell if it's any difference in it, and if the little motor can handle more power. And I don't know if you can tell it on video, but I can definitely tell it's a lot more power, and I'm pushing a lot harder on it. I'm just going to see if I can make it stall here, and yep, did stall, and it started right back up. This is going to be a very handy little tool to have around. It is by far the most compact cutoff tool that I own, and I'm pretty happy with the power for the price and the size of it. It actually did very well there with this high output pack. So I just wanted to share that today. And if it looks like I'm kind of pulling for the underdogs here, I want to tell you a really quick story. Back in the 90s, as a young man, newly married, my wife knew that I wanted the DeWalt 14.4 volt set back then. It was a saw and drill combo. And even though we didn't have a lot of money, we did save up. For our very first Christmas, my wife did get me that set. And I was tickled to death to get it. Loved the set. But for around $299 or maybe $349 back then, that was a lot of money. And the drill was definitely top of the line. But the NiCad batteries were just disastrous. It was just a constant problem. You might remember these tools coming with the blow molded case. The typical charger, right? Sometimes you have the kit with the sawzall, which was very handy back then too. But the saws were not as handy as the drill. The drill was pretty powerful. This is actually 18 volt stuff here in the picture. Just some pictures I found. They're not my actual set, obviously, but these are also 18 volt sets here. But man, these batteries, these NiCad batteries, my wife couldn't believe that I was needing. I think for like the very next Christmas or the Christmas after, my wife said, "What do you want for Christmas?" And well, it was batteries for that DeWalt set, you know. I want to say it was $129 if I remember right. And that was a lot of money. And they did not last any time. But you know, no real grudges against DeWalt. I mean, I still like their lithium stuff to this day. They're a great tool company. And to be honest, my very first batteries I worked on was these right here because of just how crappy they were. And I had to start bending over the tabs and soldering on NiCads back then. Didn't have spot welders. Had to do and learn to do it safely, you know. Cool the cells off well, which NiCad, of course, not near as dangerous as lithium. So if you wonder why I really think these are a great deal and a great tool for the money, it's just how much better they are than what we paid so much money for, you know, 25 years ago. It's just a big difference. To be able to get this little lithium power pack for 25 bucks, 4 amp hour pack, the $59 combo, to be able to buy a charger for less than $15. I also want to share here that I didn't realize you can now get that same $59 kit with the brushless impact. You can also get it with a 4 amp hour battery for $75. So it's the same setup. You just get an extra 4 amp hour battery, and that's kind of a no-brainer. I ended up buying mine separately. I didn't even realize they had that deal, or either it just came out, but definitely wanted to mention that. It's definitely worth doing. We also mentioned in the last video about the ratchets. Unbelievable deal for less than $40 for a kit. And for less than 60 bucks, you can get the extended reach, which will be handy at times. But I definitely don't use the extended ratchet enough to spend big money on one. So this is just perfect for me. I also think the little compact reciprocating saw will be very helpful. the little Milwaukee hacksaw has been very popular, and I do enjoy using it a lot. There's the little cutoff tool for less than 50 bucks. I'll eventually get the little rotary tool as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video looking at this HyperTough impact. Hopefully Torque Test channel will think it's worth looking into a second time with a different set. I can send them these batteries if you wanted to play around with them, and even this impact that I have and tested here in case it was something wrong with the one that he had. So I thank Patrick and his neighbor Joe for bringing to my attention how well these tools were for them, even though other people were not really showing them doing that well on other channels, and people just talking about them in general. When they talked about how good theirs were and how they enjoyed them and how much they work on automotive stuff with them, I definitely wanted to give them a try myself. I've been very pleased with all three items I've tried so far. And of course that's the impact, the ratchet, and the cutoff tool. So I hope you found this video helpful today. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to have some links down in the video description for some of the items that I use on my workbench and some of the things you may have seen in the video today. Any of those links you click on are affiliate links, and they help support the channel, and I greatly appreciate that. So thanks so much for watching, and God bless.